Thank you for joining us on At Issue. I'm H. Wayne Wilson, and we're going to be revisiting a place we've been before, if you've followed this program. It's Emiquon. You should be familiar with the term. It's along Route 78 down along the Illinois River in Fulton County. But this time, instead of showing you the beauty of Emiquon, we're going to look behind Emiquon and look at the science of that particular area. Now, don't go running away saying, oh boy, science, here we go. No, this is science for the layperson. I'm actually going to learn something and understand it. So you might as well join us and do the same. And to help us interpret the science behind Emiquon, we have Mike Lemke. Mike is a professor of biology at the University of Illinois at Springfield. He's also the director of the Thurkelson Field Station at Emiquon, and we'll talk about what that is in just a moment. Also joining us, another Mike. This is Mike Wiant. Mike is the director of Dickson Mounds Museum. Many of you will have been familiar with that. We're going to talk about the partnership that exists between the museum and Emiquon, and we're going to do that with Jeff Walk, who is the science director for the Nature Conservancy. And of course, it was the Nature Conservancy that kind of got the ball rolling in developing this campus atmosphere, if I may use that term, because you took what had been a bean and corn and cattle farm, 7,000 acres, and did what?
And we started the Emiquon restoration with the real vision of recreating the Thompson and Flag Lake system next to the Illinois River. And so we've done that in partnership with Dickson Mounds Museum, the field station at Emiquon, and other partners with the Illinois Natural History Survey, and our adjacent property owners, especially the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which owns some property at the Emiquon National Wildlife Refuge and across the river at the Chautauqua National Wildlife Refuge.
And how big is this campus?
Well, all told, 14,000 acres. So it's a huge stretch of land straddling the river at that location just above river from Havana. And
this is important that we have a bigger area and all these partners. Why? What's the overall picture? What's the benefit of having all these partners working together?
Well, the partnership is able to look at many different aspects of such a complex restoration process. So having people to look at science as we are today, or education and outreach to the local community, all became important factors when both restoring and exploring this kind of process.
And we're going to look at some of the exploration archaeological digs in just a moment. We'll show you some pictures of that. We'll show you some pictures of some of the bottom of the food chain. But first, let's talk about the prairie aspect. I think we forget when we go down to Emiquon, we see Flag Lake, we see Thompson Lake.
Right.
But prairie is very important to this whole concert.
That's right. Prairie once occupied about 2/3 of the Illinois land area, and almost all of it has been taken over for development and agriculture. But prairies are amazingly diverse places with, they're dominated by grasslands, but the real diversity is in the small flowering plants or forbs and the insect diversity. And these are systems that are driven by fire and grazing, as it was typical in historic times for fire to remove the vegetation above ground every 2 or 3 years, but those roots underground persisted, and that's where the real mass of the prairie is, and that's what helped to develop the very fertile soils of Illinois that are used for agriculture today.
Those aspects of the prairie that you mentioned, do they work with the lakes in terms of the birds that fly in? And
that's one of the key things about the Emiquon restoration, is that we have the opportunity to see the restoration recreating a system that extends from the bluff on the west side of the river through the prairie to the floodplain at the lakes at Thompson Lake and Flag Lake to the Illinois River, and then across the river again to the Chautauqua Refuge. So that having that continuum of habitats is really important for the diversity of life.
And you got, on the day we shaped this, you got an experience of enjoying the geese that came in.
Well, when I went to work this morning, in the dark, you hear the snow geese on the lake. They arrived about 3 days ago in enormous numbers, and their voice is so loud you can hear them from one side of the valley to the other.
Let's talk a little bit about the lakes now. Mm-hmm. Thompson Lake and Flag Lake, they're side by side, and we'll show you a picture of the lakes and the layout in just a moment. But first we want to talk about the bottom of the food chain that I mentioned earlier. Let's take a look at some slides and see how we get started with that, with actually looking at some bacteria. Mm-hmm. And we can see that these bacteria, there's some white ones in there, Mike.
Yes, these bacteria are called cyano or blue-green bacteria, and they are interesting because they act like plants, but the clear circles that you're talking about in these kind of green beads are special cells that can take the nutrient nitrogen out of the air. Where in Illinois, a lot of times we put nitrogen into the soil through fertilizers. These organisms can take it out of the air. And so this species and species like them really changed the face of Thompson Lake early on. Because unlike many of the lakes in this area of the Illinois River, Thompson Lake started out being very nitrogen poor, where we have a lot of nitrogen in our lakes around here. So these things, these species really helped to change the early development of Thompson Lake.
And we'll also see a slide here of some algae. I think were commonly known as the bloom.
Yes, this is a bloom of a different type of blue-green algae. We found that very early on, Thompson Lake was as clear as this glass of water. And we all like clear water, but that's not necessarily the best ecological case to have. So these bacteria brought in more nitrogen into the water and then died, and through their decomposition increased the complexity that fed the food chain that makes Thompson Lake now even a little bit a very healthy lake. Oh, and this is a picture of that species. We look at it and we say, like, well, bacteria should be much smaller. These look like blades of grass, but these are actually colonies of a species that has a very large name, Phantozomenon. But this was responsible for that breakdown where we saw the blue-green pigments in Thompson Lake. But these really changed the early part of the lake development.
So explain to me the blue-green algae. I understand it's grabbing nitrogen out of the air, and it's helping to establish the youthful Thompson Lake? Yes.
Well, you know, when you added, when Thompson Lake started to be restored, it was through rainwater primarily, and so it's water in a basin like a fishbowl, but it had low nitrogen, and then very soon on, the phosphorus that was in there from the farming was released, and these organisms could grab the nitrogen, and they did the bloom. Okay, after that, you know, when they died and decomposed, it allowed the next stage for more plants and more complex interactions to happen in the lake that made the lake more productive, and why we can enjoy a different kind of Thompson Lake today.
And it established an environment in which we can see some small animals, including something called the boatman.
This is
we'll show the boatman here in just a moment.
This is a water boatman, a little aquatic insect that people like because you can see the oar-like front legs of it, and we often have the students looking at this at the field station. But it's an example of hundreds of different species that we now find in Thompson Lake that support the food chain. So, you know, starting from the nutrients, we move into the small insects that feed the fish, that feed and the ducks feed on the insects. So the complexity has increased, and it's just a wonderful success story at this point.
Mike had mentioned, he referred to the farm that existed. Wilder Farm was one of the names that it was used down there for about 6,700 acres of corn, bean, and cattle. But the Emiquon came back almost naturally. That was the intent of the Nature Conservancy?
A lot of the restoration is by natural recolonization, especially of the wetland plants within the basins of Thompson Lake and Flag Lake themselves. A lot of those aquatic plants, things like cattails and the lotus, those were tubers that had been laying dormant in the soil in spite of 80 years of farming. And once the water was back on the landscape, those plants took off and have thrived since.
Obviously, a lot of kids come down to Emiquon. And when they come down to Emiquon, they get a bonus. They can go to Dickson Mounds as well. How is Dickson Mounds working in concert with the Emiquon campus?
What we've known for a long time, of course, is that human beings are inextricably linked to nature, and the way of life has changed over time, but we're still connected. So we can bring young people there, in fact, students of all ages, to get the idea that the world provides for us. And the restoration project has given us the opportunity to show them literally how it works and what parts of that world are so important to humanity, really over thousands of years.
So do the kids actually get to go out and do things? This isn't just a static display when they walk through Dickson Mounds. They can...
No, in fact, you're quite right. The cycle has no particular direction to it. We bring them to Dickson Mounds, give them an idea about human history, take them to Lakeside and talk about the kinds of animals that have begun to take residence up, whether they're migratory waterfowl, the plants that Jeff mentions, lots of things to see. There are spotting scopes that give them a close-up look at it. And then we get them to water's edge, into Mike's realm, where they take water samples, look at quality, clarity, and then take samples back to the laboratory and use the microscopes in the field station to begin to look at those building blocks of life that Mike was referring to. So it's hands-on, minds-on experience, things that you can't do in the classroom. And in fact, there are a few places that you can do this breadth of learning.
I don't know if the kids get to do this, but I know if you wanted to take a couple of adults down, you can actually go out on the lake. Absolutely.
We want people to really engage with the restoration, to learn from it, but then to have the opportunity to get out there, angling, boating, using the lakeside and wetland side observatory to really engage with that restoration.
Let's take a look at what you're doing down there archaeologically speaking. We have a map of all the archaeological digs that are taking place on the Emiquon campus, and it'll give you a feel for what exists down there. Take a look at the striped area, the diagonal stripes is Flag Lake. Then Thompson Lake is the dark and light gray area to the west of that. North is to the top. And then the Illinois River you can see. Then if you look to the south and to the southwest, that's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife property. All across the river is Chautauqua. So there are a lot of areas, a total of 14,000 acres, as you mentioned, yes. Mike. So we've got a bunch of dots on this map.
Before the restoration began, and in fact back in time, archaeologists have been interested in this landscape because there's a remarkable record here. The Nature Conservancy provided the opportunity for museum archaeologists to literally walk the land back and forth. Our interest would be to find artifacts, objects that were made or used by human beings in the past, and to locate places where there are concentrations of them, places we call sites that people might once have lived, and then to excavate into some of those areas. And essentially what they give us is perspective. In this particular example, on the right-hand side, there's the very upper reach of a ceramic container. Off to the left is the mandible of a deer. So we get not only objects that people use to make a living, but also those parts of nature that they depended on for food and materials. This object is an example of how remarkable the preservation is. This is a 700-year-old object. It is a piece of deer antler which has been carved, and then inset into that slot is the incisor of a beaver. So people are using nature's materials to create objects that allow them to do different kinds of activities. The particular function of this has been one that's a mystery to us, still unsolved. Some suggestions are that it might be a corn sheller. It may be used to apply decorations to pottery while the clay is still plastic.
I was going to guess that it's just for digging, but apparently not.
Bigger tools would have been the order of the day.
So this is like a museum without walls.
It is indeed, because the record of humanity here is thousands of years long, and now we can give people a close-up inside the museum building of what life was like. But then we have this extraordinary opportunity to go outside and see the world as it would have looked like in the past. So the restoration literally is creating a landscape, an ancient landscape, which native people, if we took them there today, if we could go back in time and bring them to the bluff line and overlook Thompson Lake, they'd recognize where they were in a minute.
How far back have you identified human activity in this area?
10 or 11,000 years. And I would tell you that that probably isn't as old as it will be in time. There are discoveries which continue to be made in the country that turn back time of humanity. I think the oldest sites now in the West are about 13,000 years old.
When the Nature Conservancy first approached the farm and said, we'd like to purchase this farm, and based upon the experience down in Meridosha with spunky bottoms, right, you said, let's return this to its original form with the lakes, the prairie, etc. Is this going the direction you had hoped, or is it even gone further?
Some of both. I think we've been pleasantly surprised with the success that we've had at Emiquon. To assist with that restoration phase, we brought in a team of about 40 scientists, persons with expertise on the Illinois River, wetland restoration and ecology experts from across the country to help with our Emiquon Science Advisory Committee to really help guide the restoration process itself. But the partnership that's developed with the Natural History Survey, the field museums and Dickson Mound has far exceeded our expectation in being able to engage visitors in research and learning experiences at Emiquon, as well as appreciating the restoration and the natural features of the site itself.
And the experience down at Emiquon has extended worldwide, actually, now.
It has. There's many examples. We have visitors. I know the Conservancy has visitors from China and Japan and are involved with the Great Lakes Rivers Partnership. But at the field station, we were, because of the work we're doing, just looking at water quality and the microbes of all things, we've been invited to explore the floodplains of some of the major rivers in Brazil. And that's been a very interesting collaboration that we think will work both ways.
This, we talked about visitors. Where have they come from and what have they learned?
We've had visitors from 5 continents coming to the Emiquon Preserve to experience that and learn from that. Visitors from India, China, Brazil, France, Africa, coming there just to see how the experience at Emiquon is going to translate to large rivers around the world. Some of the issues that we're dealing with here in central Illinois relative to using rivers for transportation, water supply, agriculture, flood abatement. These are issues that people are dealing with around the world. So the things that we're learning at Emiquon and at the Illinois River have application far beyond our borders.
For all three of you, diet is something that I know that you're studying down there. And that's a particular interest because of the Asian carp problem in the Illinois River. You want to give us an overview and maybe we can get into a discussion of the different kinds of animals that we're looking at diets?
Well, I think the two that come immediately to mind that have been part of the restoration process, one of the great questions, as I recall, was the fish composition that would be in the lake eventually, things like carp and so on. And where one diet is concerned, largemouth bass were introduced in enormous numbers to try to mitigate the development of species that were undesirable. And there have been studies on largemouth bass, one of which looked at the stomach contents of bass to try to get an idea about what their diet was like.
Others that we're looking at?
Well, with the bass study, the species we were hoping that they would be eating is common carp, and it turns out they don't care for them so much. We haven't found many in their diet. So that's one of the important things about this restoration is that we're learning it. As we form these hypotheses and test them out, we can expand on the ones that aren't working, but the ones that aren't yielding the results that we want, we'll have to change strategies on that. But we've been studying the diets of other things. You know, pelicans, for example, are they one of the vehicles for maybe moving some of these fish species from the river into Emiquon as eggs or even as adult fish that they regurgitate, out by accident. And then also looking at the diets of other species like river otters, understanding what types of fishes they're consuming at the restoration.
Are we having luck with eating Asian carp?
So far, not as much luck as we'd like to see. We'd like to see it more on their menu, but luckily, right now at Emiquon, the Asian carp are not a major part. So it's still a question being asked at how it all pan out as the lake develops.
Now, there was a levee put in place back in the 1920s.
That's right.
That levee's still there.
Yes.
Has that interfered with recreating the original Emiquon, the original area?
No. In fact, the levee actually has enabled a lot of the restoration that we've done. Because the Illinois River has been heavily altered because of agriculture and development and the transportation infrastructure there, we can't really rely on it to provide the same spring high water and low water during the summer as it did historically. So the levee helps to protect Emiquon from some of that unnatural fluctuation. As Mike mentioned, Emiquon's a lot like a bathtub right now, but it's a bathtub bathtub without a drain to it. The only way that we can get water in is by rainfall, and the only way that we can get it out is by pumping. And so that we're hoping that especially having a way to gravity flow water out of Emiquon to imitate that summer drawdown is going to be an important part of sustaining the quality of the restoration for the long term.
And you're taking some of these experiences and applying them to other rivers in the state?
Absolutely. The planning process that went into the Emiquon restoration is something that we're replicating at the Cache River project in far southern Illinois and at the Nature Conservancy's Mollisey Farms in Louisiana.
And this is going to be a very broad question, but what's the public benefit? I go to work every day. I'm in Peoria or Bloomington or Galesburg, and okay, I drive down 78 and I go by Emiquon. I see the Dickson Mounds off in the distance, but what's the benefit to me?
Do you know, the first thing that came to mind when you posed that question is reading mid-19th century naturalists who are trying to understand how the world works, and they are amazed at the diversity, the complexity, literally the way the world works. I think when people come down Route 78 and they get to the top of the bluff and they overlook Thompson Lake, there's got to be a spark of wonder. What a magnificent thing. And if you see by chance one of the great flocks out there, snow geese that may number 100,000 birds, it's difficult not to be moved by it and realize that we live in an extraordinary place.
What would you say to the average Joe and Alice?
Well, I tell you, what I find both rewarding and in answer to your question is that the public can interact. They can come and fish. You can take your son or daughter fishing there for as long as you want, really. You can do bird watching. You can come to the field station, and we have people explore Emiquon from the microbes on up to larger things, and it's hands-on. So it's not out there. It's not someone's place that is like all fenced off. It's something you can come and feel and touch and see. And this has been amazing for me as an educator to watch people do this. They learn stuff, and they're very excited about learning about what's going on.
The Nature Conservancy actually has made access a little easier, 21st century access.
We've certainly made every attempt to, that's right, with some infrastructure along the west side just off of Highway 78, a boat launch for people to get out with their kayaks and canoes, to do angling there, a boardwalk with spotting scopes so they can look at the birds that are out on Thompson Lake, and then a lot of interpretive panels to kind of show what is the history of the area, some of the archaeological features, and as well as to give them a sense of what the site looked like during the agricultural phase and how the restoration has been progressing and what we hope to maintain for the long term.
And as you referred to earlier, you can just go down and sit and listen.
You can indeed. And in fact, I would encourage everyone to go down and sit and listen because it takes the edge off the day.
I've been down there to listen, and sometimes you forget about time. All of a sudden it's time to come back to reality. Although, you know, speaking of reality, actually that was the way life was back then in say, the Mississippian era, 700-800 years ago.
Do you know, I think it's an important thing to recall. We may see ourselves as divorced from the world around us today, from nature. And indeed, in human history, we were intimately connected. What happened this morning with snow geese on the lake would tell us, but maybe snow geese hunting was afoot, and we should move to take advantage of their presence. The simple fact of the matter is we're still connected. Our connection may not be as direct as it once was, but we still live on a world which has boundaries. So the restoration of places like this becomes important in the much broader aspect of human existence on this planet.
There's a symposium coming up where you can share some of the knowledge from Emiquon and elsewhere. When is that happening?
That's right. It's going to be on Thursday, March 7th. It's going to be hosted by Mike at Dickson Mounds Museum, and Mike is our lead organizer for the event. We usually have about 100 participants, scientists from across the state.
Can the public participate in any way?
They can.
Yes.
We just ask for them to register as long as space permits.
Yeah, we welcome them. The auditorium seats about 140 people, and we're pleased to have them come and learn about what we're doing.
And they can contact Dickson Mounds in order to get more information?
Yes, absolutely. They could call the museum, and we can tell them when and where, get their name on a list, and welcome them.
And let me say thank you to all three of you. Mike Lemke from the University of Illinois, at Springfield, and also the director of the Thurkelson Field Station at Emiquon.
Thank you.
And also Jeff Walk, who is the director of science for the Nature Conservancy in the state of Illinois. And then we also have another Mike Wiant, who's director of Dickson Mounds Museum. Thank you all for sharing the science behind Emiquon without getting too scientific. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We appreciate your joining us for the first show of the new year. A happy new year to you. And we invite you to join us in another week when we're going to be talking about censorship. We'll have representatives of a couple of libraries and also a professor from the Illinois State University. We'll talk about the question of banning of books on the next At Issue.